Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're talking Ogor Mawtribes and getting started with them in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. And today in particular, we're going to be talking about the Winterbite sub-faction of the army. In this video, we're going to go through everything it is to be a Winterbite Ogor Mawtribes army, and then we're going to look at some units we can grab to start this army up with, furthering on then with some other units we can grab to expand upon the army to build it up closer to a 1000 point army. At the end of the video, we'll also show you a little sample 1000 point army list you can use as inspiration to build your own 1000 point army, or indeed just copy ours and use ours if that's what you want to do. With that said, let's get cracking on. And so what exactly do we get from an Ogor Mawtribes army? Well, first of all, we're going to get the Pot, which is a terrain piece you have access to, which can do some healing across the army. We're not necessarily going to be picking up a Butcher in this army type that we're doing, so it's not necessarily a very important piece to have within your force to begin with, though later down the line it can be a cool little once per game heal that could definitely come in clutch. Now, this sub-faction particularly gives bonuses to Frost Sabers and Yetis, some units you maybe don't, first think of when you're thinking Ogor Mawtribes. So you've got a bunch of different abilities, from command traits that are going to give extra +1 to wounds to them from the general, to a command ability as well that can allow these units to fight at the start of the combat phase as well. So you've got some really cool sort of doubling down of abilities and stuff on top of these units to really make them more than what they seem on their base war scroll. The unit has a cool rule where it's harder to hit in its own territory, so you subtract 1 from hit rolls made with missile weapons to target friendly Winterbite units that are wholly within their own territory. And you also get a bonus to the Call of the Blizzard Prayer, which is pretty cool, so this is going to work along with one of your Huskguards. And Call of the Blizzard is an ability of a prayer where you can pick a unit of Iceful Yetis and return a model to the unit. So potentially some healing on your Yetis is always nice, and a bonus to it is more than welcome. With that said though, that's pretty much all there is to be this army, other than, you know, the generic sort of ogre stuff like might makes right so you count as more models. You've got the Beastclaw Raiders rule where any of your monsters are going to potentially do some mortal wounds around them, and you've got bonus movement or bravery depending whether you're hungry or eating, not to mention some impact hits as well. So let's get cracking on and let's see where we should start off this army. And so to start the army, I'm going to suggest picking up an Icebrow Hunter. This is a resin miniature. It's pretty cool. You could easily pick up Hofgarl's Man Trappers and use that Hunter there as well. And he's a good unit in his own right. The Man Trappers definitely serve a purpose. But for me, I think an Icebrow Hunter is a great place to start. So he's a pretty decent ogre hero. 7 wounds, 5 up save, movement 6. He's got his Hunter's Culling Club, so he's got 4 attacks at 3/3, no rend damage 2, and another Gulping Bite attack at 3/3, no rend damage 1. He's got his Great Throwing Spear, which is 1 attack at 4/3, rend 1 damage D3, and actually picks up when he uses the Mighty Throw ability to, if he chooses to run, he can still run and shoot, and actually gets a run up and makes this weapon better, which is pretty cool and thematic. Turns it into D6 damage and has an 18-inch range instead of 12. He's also got his crossbow there as well, which is another 4/3, no rend damage D3 shooting attack. His Icy Breath will allow him to do some mortal wounds in close combat, and the Master of Ambush allows you to, instead of setting up this model on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say it's set up an ambush. If you do so, you can set up a friendly Frost Saber unit as well, instead of setting that unit up on the battlefield, and say it's joining this model in ambush as a reserve unit. One unit can join this model in this way. And you can bring them on from ambush around the board edge, which is pretty nice. Now, alongside him, well, Frost Sabers. We mentioned that he can bring Frost Sabers in from ambush around him, so we're going to pick up some Frost Sabers. These come in units of 2, and they are 2 wounds per model with a 6 up save, so nothing to write home about there. 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, rend 1, damage 1 isn't terrible, but they do add 3 to their charge rolls, while this unit's wholly within 16 inch of an Icebrow Hunter. And in addition, they add to the bravery characteristic as well while they're within range of the Icebrow Hunter, so they get some bonuses from him, which is pretty nice. Now that we talked about them, we'll go have a look at some other units we can bring into the force. And so the first unit we're going to recommend is bringing some Iceful Yetis. This is the other unit that Winterbite gets a bonus to, and Iceful Yetis have some cool little abilities of their own. So 4 wounds and a 6 up save, and 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, rend 1, damage 2 is pretty okay on the offensive front for attacks, but they also subtract 1 from hit rolls that target them with melee weapons, so in their own territory in Winterbite they'll be -1 to hit, both shooting and melee. And they've got bounding leaps where they can pile in and attack 6 inches instead of 3, so this is really great for sort of playing around with the pile in and mechanics and the combat phase rules. You've also got Invigorated with the Blizzard, where they can run and charge later in the turn if they hold within 16 inch of a friendly Thunder Tusk when the charge roll is made. Now, other than that, I think a Huskard on Thunder Tusk is a great shout for the army. Being a priest, there's some ability to have some range shooting is nice as well, for some mortal wound output. As always, I recommend the Blood Vulture. I think just the mortal wound is the most consistent thing you're going to get out of this model. But he's a nice piece to have, and unlike the Yetis, he's going to be -1 to hit both in combat and with shooting inside your own territory. Now, a Frostlord on Stonehorn is a great piece to add to this army. The rest of the army can be pretty offensively okay and good at sometimes and even great, but it is pretty made of paper. So the fact that the rest of your army's glass cannon, a nice solid piece like a Frostlord and Stonehorn, goes really well to complementing this force and just giving you that hard as nails piece that you can use to sort of hold up the big things your opponent throws while your other little toolbox units sort of pick apart your enemy. Mornfang Pack are another unit you can certainly add. They do get some benefits, especially when taken with a Huskard on Stonehorn, if that's the sort of model you've gone for. They're useful, pretty fast for Ogres, cavalry unit that hits pretty hard as well. You can choose between the Culling Clubs or the Gargant Hackers, which have an amazing damage characteristic of 3, which really just leads them to have some really strong spike damage. And so here we have a little sample army list for you all for Ogor Mawtribes in the Winterbite subfaction. Now we've gone the Mortal Realm of Shaiish. This is completely for narrative reasons. The Ogor Mawtribes from the Beast Called Raiders, they actually freed the gods of winter from Nagash, so Shaiish is actually pretty accurate into where narratively this army should be from. But we've gone the Grand Strategy Predator's Domain. This is definitely helped by the fact that the army is pretty fast moving and has some cool ambush ability. And so, we've gone for our general to be an Icebrow Hunter. This is mostly because Frost Sabers are a cheap option for battle line when he's a general, but also because he's going to be able to make them better. Later in life, when you're starting to expand this army more, you're probably going to want to have that unit of 6 Frost Sabers alongside him to come in and generate all these buffs off him to really get the most out of it. So he's going to have the Winter Touch command trait, where he adds 1 to the wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly Winterbite Frost Sabers and Yetis within 12 inch. Now, that's a command trait, so that can combine with the command ability that's going to allow him to let them fight at the start of the combat phase as well, or potentially even get the +1 attack from him as well. So he's got himself a command ability, Lead the Skull, where he can give a Frost Saber unit +1 attack. So those Frost Sabers could be +1 attack, +1 to wound, so they'll have 4 attacks at 4s and 2s, round 1 damage 1. It's pretty okay. Now, we've then got a Frostlord on Stonehorn for a really solid sort of anvil unit in the army. He's going to have the Frostfang, which is a cool artifact. On each turn, you roll a dice. On a 5+, he adds 1 to the damage of his weapon. This can up the Frost Spear pretty nice. I've had times where I've rolled that 5+ 3 turns in a row, and suddenly he's rocking around with a damage 6 Frost Spear. It's pretty cool. Metal Cruncher, a great command trait. Command trait that's going to allow him to do some mortal wounds out to units that are going to have a really good armor save, will be artillery. And for battle line, we've got our 2 units of Frost Sabers. One of them increased to 4, the other at 2. It'll be the 4 that complements the Icebrow Hunter going along and doing some damage from a flanking maneuver. And then 2 units of Icefall Yetis there for some really cool pile-in shenanigans and some sort of control of how the combat phase goes. The ability to have these always strikes first units and the Yeti's ability to pile in when they want is some really cool abilities we can use to really dominate and sort of control how things are working inside that combat phase. This army is completely wrapped up inside a battle regiment, which means it's a 1-drop army, which is nice. Not 160 points means there's a good chance we're getting that Bloodthirsty Triumph for the reroll to charge, because we do not want those Frost Sabers failing. And then 1 reinforced unit, no allies. 56 wounds is an okay amount. It's pretty average sort of wounds, but as mentioned, a 1-drop army. This is a fun little Ogor Mawtribes army. I really look forward to actually getting some Winterbite stuff on the table. I love the idea of playing with a bunch of Frost Sabers and Yetis. It's a cool little, very different style Ogor Mawtribes army. Well, thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, if you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fun little community here, you can do so by joining our Discord server, which is linked down in the description of the video. Also, if you'd like to help support the channel more financially, you can do so either by joining our Patreon or YouTube members, of which you'll find both the links of both of them down in the video's description as well. As a special thank you to everyone who does support the channel via Patreon and YouTube members, we'd like to give a shout out to them all. So a special thanks to our Patreons, Christian Weir, James Soren, Greenskins Gaming, AJC, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nilsson, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, and Samuel. And a special shout out to our YouTube members as well: Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Chris Rollis, Ronya, Vinny, Lockloric, the Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, Wolfric Nick, Broken Chef, Sean Scott, DS, and Ariana Edwards. And a special thanks lastly to, first of all, Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork you can see pictured here for the channel. And a special shout out to Xmorphic, who does all the amazing background work for our Discord server. You're both absolute legends. Thank you all for watching once again. Once again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay safe everyone, stay well. Most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.